right, good evening. Welcome to our school committee meeting for this Wednesday, December 4th, 2019. I would like us to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Due to our snow days on Monday and Tuesday this week, we do not have a student representative set up for tonight. So we'll move to our public comment and communication section, and we do not have any public here tonight, so I'm going to skip through that. Any old business that anyone would like to address this evening? Okay, any new business? Okay, with that, I will turn over to Mr. Maines for our superintendent's report.
Thank you. So if I could begin by something that's not on the docket, but to express the appreciation that we have for the custodians, the facilities manager, Jeff Collette, all of our custodians, the DPW, for all of their work in getting us ready. I was very surprised that I was fearful that coming in today was going to be ugly because there was so much snow. But they had done a great job clearing all the walkways and spreading the salt. We were out this morning between the two buildings just to keep an eye, because the elementary school, the front of the building doesn't get any sun, and so overnight it would freeze. So while the students were arriving, Mr. Aronian was spreading some of the rock salt. Mr. Bell was out there, Mrs. Urquhart and myself were out there, just making sure that everybody knew to take their time. You know, kids get excited, they want to run to school and they'll slip and fall. But to all of the people who got the buildings and the walkways and everything prepared, it was very much appreciated. I did send something out the other night to all of our staff, acknowledging the custodians and the DPW as well, thanking them for everything that they had done. I thank all the administrators who helped out in a number of ways, calling buses, taking over for Mr. Collette, who got hurt, and so forth. So Courtney had to take over those responsibilities. And
Courtney was driving tractors?
No, she was not driving a tractor.
I hope somebody got
She would like to drive a tractor, I bet.
I drive a John Deere once.
We did not let her in the tractor, but and you know, there's everybody has jobs and responsibilities, from Donna Souza sending out the text message that gives people an update, to Lauren Tibbetts, who does the televisions, and then all the other things that go into it. But I was hoping that we were going to be able to get in both days, but in hindsight, I think we made the right decisions. Yesterday really threw me for a curveball. I really thought we would be able to get in for a 2-hour delay yesterday, but I'm kind of glad that I decided not to do so, as it just kept snowing like crazy.
That would have been a disaster.
So now the final day of the school year is June 16th, should we have no other additional days.
I knew last year was too good to be true.
Last year was one
It's
day.
only December.
Last year was, yeah.
Last year was one day, now we're at two, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to hold the line going forward. So the first thing that I do have on there is an update on the EL teacher. As you know, we needed to expand that from the 0.6 to the 1.0. And but before I do that, I also wanted to update you. You recently approved a 1-to-1 para at the primary school. And I want to update you on the fact that we had hired someone for that position, and then I'll tell you about the EL position. So we hired a woman by the name of Jessica Adams. She's a 2016 Fitchburg State graduate, Bachelor of Science in Early Childhood Education and in Mathematics. She has been a lead teacher at a Montessori school. She has also served as a substitute in Webster. She has early childhood licensure, so she is certified as an educator in Massachusetts. And she also has her SEI endorsement. She has been serving in the capacity in the early stages, and now we are able to appoint her now that she's been approved. So she'll be coming on board. She's actually on board, I think, as of today. So we welcome Jessica to the district. And then we did hire a 1.0 EL teacher. So Rochelle Grand Mason, if you were French Canadian, it would be Grand Maison, but be that the case, she is joining us. She will be serving in the 1.0 position. She is from Framingham. She has a Bachelor of Science degree from Framingham State in Early Childhood Education and Sociology. That was in 2015. in August of 2019, so last summer. Rochelle completed her master's degree in education from Cambridge College. The area of her concentration for her master's was English as a second language for pre-K through 6. She has worked in the Newton School District for the last 2 years as a long-term kindergarten substitute and has also worked at their after-school program as a kindergarten coordinator. And Rochelle did her student teaching in Ashland. She has licensure in early childhood education. She is awaiting the test results on her EL certification. She completed, as I said, she completed her master's degree in August, took the tests in September, so she's waiting, and we will try to expedite the results back as soon as we can. She is also SEI certified as well, and this will be her first independent classroom experience, and she is scheduled to start on May 9th. So we welcome Rochelle Grand Mason to
September?
That's what I meant to say, December 9th.
That's interesting. She
Would've
came
saved
from
a lot of
Newton
money for this.
to Douglas,
Yeah, she came, well, wasn't a teacher, she was a
a long-term sub.
a long-term sub. This is a permanent position, so great opportunity for her. So we welcome her. Really looking forward to her joining us. At your place, you're going to probably see a year in review that Lauren Tibbetts put together and finalized just recently. And basically, this is something that Brett had talked about previously. It's basically just some publicity, putting forward some information that happens within the district. You can see that it goes from August through the school year. She's added some nice pictures in there and so forth. And she has put a link on the back page to the plan for moving the district forward. And she also was good enough to put the 9 pictures of retirements from the district last year on the back page as well. So we're going to put these in all of the schools, basically in the waiting areas. We will put a link to it on all of the school web pages, home pages as well. So people who are looking at the district would have this to look at, as well as a few other things that we put up there recently. The student life video that we presented a couple of weeks ago. That will be there as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
This looks great. Thank you to Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren, it took a little bit of time, and I think now that she's got it down, I think she'll have a pretty good idea, and we'll be able to jump on it a little bit sooner with all of the administrators to try to have it ready for the start of the school year next year. The next thing I had on the docket was the January Professional Development Day update. Recently met with the leadership of the Douglas Teachers Association, and we have finalized the plan for the January PD Day. First thing I will tell you is that we have our nurses will have the opportunity to attend a Blackstone Valley nurses seminar on diabetes, cystic fibrosis, and I forget what the third item was. So they'll be able to go to specifically something for the nurses. The rest of the district, so what you have in front of you is a document. The first document would be this document, which is a survey. So what we did is with the Douglas Teachers Association reached out to their teachers and asked them to prioritize what they had an interest in for professional development experiences for January. You can see by the survey that Mr. Wagenheim produced for us that overwhelmingly mindfulness for teachers and students was the number one. The second was first aid and CPR, and then the third was for horizontal and grade level and departmental meetings during the day. So the schedule that we have set up for it is that the teachers will have a choice of 2 activities that they can attend, the mindfulness training, and you have a document there on professional development of the offering, the company that we have contracted with, some information on the training that will take place on mindfulness, or they have the option of, if they would like to do the CPR and first aid. The CPR would give them the opportunity in the 2 hours, the first 2 hours, to get, I guess, certified in CPR, and then they would have the opportunity to get some exposure to some first aid, the stop the bleed materials that we have in all the schools and so forth. So they won't get first aid certification, but they'll get the opportunity to get some practice with some of the first, also how to use the defibrillators as well. So those will be available to them. So they'll have a choice of which they would like to go to.
What's mindfulness mean?
Mindfulness is the idea of being able to calm oneself down, to live in the moment. So it's it's a rage right now. Everybody is doing mindfulness, and it's all about breathing exercises and so forth. So we're going to do it in order for the teachers to become trained in it. And it can translate into the classroom because now they have the knowledge how to do it, and they can do it. A lot of them are doing it already in the lower grade levels, which is just exercises to get students to be calm, to be in the moment, to feel their breathing, know that they're present, and it's not. I don't want to say it's a de-escalation because it's really not. It's about calming oneself down, and so that's what it is.
Yeah, I would add, I guess from what I know of it, it's probably not even, if you're doing it right, you don't need to calm yourself down. 'Cause
Correct.
You're managing.
You're managing.
Prevention.
Yeah,
See, that's a
so,
good point.
yeah.
Keep you from escalating and so forth.
Yeah.
It is very, very popular right now. There's quite a number of professional developments going on. So Mrs. Socia was able to reach out to Breathe for Change, which is a local group. They were just recently at Sutton during their professional development for the teachers. So that's the professional development there. The second part of the day would be, have at your place, the tentative plan for horizontal meetings. And so the idea would be that it would give us an opportunity for the second half of the day, for part of the day. Right now, we have it at 8, 9:30. I'm not sure that's, we may, because of the contract with the people for the presentation, may need to flip-flop it so that this might be in the afternoon. But anyways, they'll give an opportunity. You can see there that in the morning, they're saying that the pre-K teachers would meet with the K teachers, and then the K teachers would meet with the 1 teachers. 1 would meet with 2, 2 with 3. So it's going to give you the opportunity at the lower grade levels to have some really dedicated time to talk about, what are you doing? How are you instructing? What are the strategies you're using? What are the assessments you're using? What's your curriculum look like? Try to avoid any redundancies. So get an opportunity for the grade levels to operate in that direction. At the high school, it's a little bit more difficult. 8 and 9 will work, and then it'll be predominantly departmentally, interdepartment. So English meeting with science and math with history and so forth, getting together. So Josh will have will come up with a game plan for that. A lot of the work there would be related to the NEASC report when they have an opportunity to really talk about what they're doing in their classrooms and assessments and so forth. So the idea is for horizontal meetings because we're already doing vertical meetings. So this is something that we don't have an opportunity. We really couldn't do both. And I want to thank the DTA, and I think this is much better. We did this a couple of years ago when we provided options. The teachers found it to be very rewarding because they could go to the training that they really felt that they had an interest in, and this hopefully will be beneficial as well. Again, this is what they asked for, so we wanted to support them in what their needs were, and we truly value the horizontal piece of it as well. So it's a win for us as well. Is there any questions on that plan? Okay.
Sounds good.
And then the last thing I put at your place was some information on the vertical teamings. There's been a few changes, but we do have vertical teamings that are taking place this week, next week. We did move one that you can see there that I moved. The music is going to go back to the 8th. Reason being is that they all have band concerts coming up in the next couple of weeks, and they didn't want to take away the time from being able to do their training for the prepping for the band concert. So they're going to do theirs on January 8th, and we added the adjustment councils down the bottom on December the 10th, you could see. So that this will be the second session of the vertical team meetings this year, and then there's a third one that will be coming up in February, I believe.
Is the name on the right the person who's facilitating that particular session?
Yeah, so you see the principals' names that they'll be sitting in on the meetings.
Okay.
There's a faculty member who is the chair, and the principals will be sitting in as contributors to the meetings.
Gotcha.
Which is something that's new this year that we've done, which has turned out the first meeting went very well. And it does give it an opportunity to really have that collaboration between administration and the teachers as well. So this is the upcoming schedule. The agendas are being finalized, and the hope is that it will again be as productive as the first meeting, and there'll be one more session before the February vacation, I believe. So it gives them an opportunity to really work vertically now. So.
Tough.
Okay, so that, I believe,
Great.
is everything that I had on my report.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to our school committee and subcommittee reports, our accounts payable report.
On November 21st, 2019, I signed 7 batches totaling $29,223.04. And on November 27th, 2019, 8 batches totaling $243,473.37. And nothing unusual.
Any questions on accounts payable? Seeing none. We'll move to our consent agenda. We have one item, our meeting minutes for November 20th, our last meeting. I had a chance to look at them this evening, real briefly, when we sat down here. I didn't get a chance to look at them today. I did not see anything glaringly omitted or stated wrong. Anyone else have a chance to take a look through and see anything? Okay. If not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve our meeting minutes for November 20th, 2019 school committee meeting.
So moved.
Motion from Lisa,
Second?
second from Julie, or Becky, what was that, Becky?
Either one.
Both of you guys? Oh, we'll give it to Julie.
Becky.
Becky, okay, we'll give it to, second to Becky.
Kelly was in on it too.
All right.
give it to
I just know I
Becky.
heard a lot of
Becky won.
voices.
Everybody's trying.
More voices than I usually hear in my head, so, all right, motion from Lisa, a second from Becky. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that is approved. And move on to our school business and operation manager's report. Ms. Keegan.
Already, my goodness gracious.
Yes,
Flying through here.
record time.
Okay, first thing I have for you this evening is the FY 2020 reclassifications number 3. So the first one is moving, this is for the middle school Chromebooks into
Okay.
the grant to use up the absolute rest of the grant.
Great.
So it's put in the general fund initially, and then the difference was put over in the grant. The second one is a change that I kind of got a little bit behind. Remember I said the DESE is changing a lot of it, and I don't know why. I have no idea why. So it's just going from a 1,450 to a 4,400. You know, I don't know. Just like to make our lives interesting.
Right.
So I'm, reclassing up till now, and from now on it'll get posted to the 4,400. And the third one down was a distribution error from that payroll. That's all, it's just, was put in the wrong count, we just gotta move it over, so.
Okay.
When it comes to payroll, it just immediately gets done and used, and immediately has to be put in distribution, so you really don't have much time to look at it, but it was glaringly evident when I printed out the general fund report, so.
Oops.
I knew immediately what it was, yeah.
There's ways to fix it,
So-
so,
We don't usually have big numbers like that, but, so that's the story on those 3.
okay. Any questions? Okay, if not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the FY 2020 reclassification number 3 for school committee meeting dated December 4th, 2019.
So moved.
Motion from Lisa,
Second?
and a second from Becky. I only heard one voice that time. That was good. Any other discussion?
So as you know, sorry.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sorry,
So
go ahead.
it's always, they all get paid at one time, all the coaches, from the
Coaches,
from the
yeah,
season,
exactly, yeah. I do remember
So
that.
the other thing I have for you that I put before you this evening, I sent it the other day when I received it to Brett and Kevin. So this is a fact sheet, just for your reading pleasure.
Yep.
Couple things I just wanted, so this will take time. This does
Yeah.
take, it's an enormous amount of work. In fact, I wouldn't even want to be them right now at the DESE and the DOR.
Yeah.
To actually figure this out. It's one thing when the legislature passes something, that's the very easy part. It's just words on a piece of paper. Actually translating it is a whole different thing. But one thing I do want to know, so it is being done over several years, but the biggest thing for us is going to be on page 2, in number 2, is the third bullet, that they're actually going to incorporate special ed transportation costs into the circuit breaker, which is amazing. We never, ever, ever thought we'd get to that point. So that will be phased in over 4 years. And I did send an email to Jay Sullivan. He's the associate commissioner right now. He used to be in charge of the business services before. But just asking him only because I found out that over the last 3, I think it's now 3, maybe going into the 4th year, the state of Rhode Island actually took over, which is such a wonderful thing, all special ed transportation for all school districts. They deal with it. They pay for it, they deal with it, they do the logistics, they do the procurement, the parent calls, they get everything. But, and I did send Jay an email, and I did actually put in the first thing, I'm sending you an email because I know you can't reach me to hit me over the head when I send this, but I took that part out. But basically just asking if they had looked at that, and I did say, albeit I do understand that Massachusetts is much larger, far, bigger geographically, a lot more students. I mean, it's much easier in a little state, but it was worth asking the question,
In
just to see if
concept,
they
you
had.
know, yeah.
But they had 10 years ago, and there hasn't been any, talk recently. So I did email them back and said, maybe, because it has been 10 years, maybe they can, because they can find some efficiencies if they take it over. And there's a lot, when you're, for lack of a better word, or a bigger power, you have a lot more leverage,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, better purchasing
In many,
power.
many ways, efficiency, saving procurement-wise, the whole
Yeah.
deal. So I just put that out there with him, but that was really wonderful. So it is gonna take some time for DOR and DESC, they have to work together to actually, and of course, anything that I do get, I will,
But the
send
plan
it
is
out to
that
you.
some of these changes will kick in for FY '21. It's, I know it's a 7-year kind of full implementation on this, but I think some of it starts to take place in FY '21 on this. So we should start seeing, some additional help from the state in the form of circuit breaker dollars, starting with our next budget, so.
Yeah, so Jay sent out a questionnaire, and it was one question, and all it did was ask whether or not you have your own buses or you contract out. That was the only question he sent out to all business managers. That was it. I thought it was gonna be a big survey, but,
You raise an interesting point, though, in relation to the transportation and the special ed. When kids have to go out, like, to different schools, are there schools in Sutton and Uxbridge that are going to the same exact place as some of the kids in
Yeah,
Douglas?
they've
and
looked at it
actually,
1,000
we
times. yeah.
actually have, in fact, all the business managers in the area looked at it, and also in Neely, her crew also looked at it. We actually had a meeting, we brought every single one of our runs to see if we could combine them.
I think the
There
big
wasn't
problem
really
is
anything you
that-
can combine, but the other problem is that, because actually for another reason, I did a big research thing last year on this, is, I actually created a whole doc because I thought that I would actually need it. Our students are going all over the place, down in Providence, Rhode Island, over an hour away, or up to an hour away. If we had to stop, go, and divert over to another town, and then come back this way to go to that school, that child could be on the bus another hour, or another 40 minutes, and you really are supposed to keep it under an hour. So logistically, it's very, very difficult, just for that reason as well,
Yeah, there's been
But we did
consistent
try.
looking
We absolutely
at
did try.
can your bus share, and it's really, really challenging
Yeah, it
to make
is.
it all work.
They could get coach buses with there's bathrooms on board.
I have a question on that same page, number 2, that first bullet point, increasing foundation rates for guidance and psychological services. What does that translate into for us?
Okay, so what that means is, as part of the Chapter 70, the DESE comes up with a foundation budget. And they have calculated for various categories, instructional categories, based on calculations throughout the state, what they come up with. And it's they have a statewide, they also have a per district, okay? We have a foundation budget amount, okay?
Right.
And then it breaks out into each category. So they're looking at increasing those foundation rates that they apply for those categories, guidance and psychological services. And the reason being, is you've heard mostly Mr. Maines and Mrs. Urquhart speak many, many times about social emotional, and not by far, this is not just a special education thing by any stretch of the imagination in any way, it's regular ed as well. So I think they've recognized that, not only statewide, nationwide, and they're incorporating that into the formula to recognize the additional costs, which is a good thing. And now how that will
Get some
translate into
programs
dollars.
and
that's,
so
you know.
forth in place.
Right.
But I think it generally, when it comes to the foundation rates, it doesn't necessarily translate into when they increase those rates, it doesn't translate into a positive financial impact for us, because we're probably already spending above.
That's
Right.
correct.
In many
That's
cases.
that's an excellent point,
So,
because the
it kinda
foundation
raises the floor,
budget.
but we're already
Right.
above the floor on most of these things.
Right. So the foundation budget actually breaks down in a minimum net contribution, and then Chapter 70. And then there's net school spending. And as there are a couple of districts that are under, and
Yeah.
oftentimes the state will take those over. But, and we've had this conversation many times, Douglas is a little bit over, but again, I always go back to the underlying premise of an adequate education, that word adequate, and what does that mean? And I think most people would agree that the net school spending does not necessarily translate in any way, shape, or form into adequate spending for the needs of any district. But we do appreciate all the dollars that we get, certainly, but most districts are far above percentage-wise the net school spending than Douglas is.
I'm just glad to see that
But,
it's
yeah.
being recognized as a need and
Absolutely, all around,
way it's.
all around.
And I can remember
Yep.
the first time it was presented was probably 9-10 years ago, more than that. I was working in Hopedale at the time. So when we, at the principals conference at the time, the commissioner was there, and we raised the concern that we need help with social emotional, and it's taken 10 years to finally get them to realize just how compelling this situation is. So anything that we can get that's going to support programs or initiatives that's going to help our students to be more successful, I'll be happy. There is one other piece in there that doesn't relate necessarily to circuit breaker or otherwise, but by April 1st of 2020, we need to submit a plan to the commissioner for review on how we're going to address discrepancies between student performance for students in subgroups such as economically disadvantaged or those with disabilities and so forth. How are we, a plan that we are going to implement to generate growth for the subgroups. So that's something that we're going to need to start working on right away. I know that everybody is a little bit up in arms about, what are they really looking for and the detail and so forth. So I'm sure we're going to get more information about it. But as an admin team, we're going to need to start taking a look at the programs that we're using. A good example would be, is there a different math program that we can use that's more geared and evidence-based and that we can use with students with a specific learning disability that might help them to be more. So
Or
we'll
supplemental.
so we'll need to
material.
look at all of that and come up with a plan, and they have the right to make recommendations for modifications as well. And it's all tied into the Chapter 70 and the whole nine yards. So that's something that I know most districts are already panicking a little bit about. We'll need to get started on it as well to see what we're going to do with it.
And it sounded like you guys are, well, maybe you weren't thinking about it, but I know Josh was already talking about some of this with MCAS
Right.
during our last meeting.
Right.
Around the differentiation of some of those scores, so at least you have some of that data to identify where the gaps are and,
How we're going to address them.
Yeah.
And that would correlate to number 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep. Great, well, thank you for sharing this with us. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. I'll definitely keep you apprised of anything that we get,
Yeah.
any information.
Okay.
And that's all I have for this evening.
So I do have one other item. I guess we'll include it under topics not anticipated because Mr. Main presented me with this right as we came in. But we have a recognition for Miss Julie Mulder for 5 years on the Douglas School Committee. And I want to thank you for your service. Very much. 5 years. You're our grizzled veteran. Thank you.
I like that, didn't it?
Yeah. So I didn't realize you were a mid-year replacement at the time that you started.
Yeah, Mr. Snape had passed away, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna be looking for new people.
That's right.
First blood.
Also under topics not anticipated is I would ask that I received an email today from Ethan, and he's looking for some direction on the possibility of exploring boys volleyball coming back at Douglas High School. So if I could get your approval, I'll reach out to Mrs. Sokol and Mr. Romano to enlist a survey to measure interest, and then also to figure out some of the logistics as to how we would be able to implement it, funding, who we would play, so on and so forth, the scope of it, so.
I would say extend the survey to the middle school as well, because if you're worried about kind of longevity of the program and it not just being a 1 or 2 year kind of thing with the current group that's really interested in it, let's see, who down at the middle school might be interested as well.
So if you're okay with me going ahead and looking into it.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to Ethan in the email return that we probably wouldn't be here at 8:30, and I think at this point, there's a very good chance that we will not be here at 8:30. So he is welcome to come back and speak on the 18th if he would like to. In the meantime, we'll ask Mr. Romano and Mrs. Sokol to do some of the initial legwork to see what the interest level is. Mrs. Sokol can reach out to some of the area schools, because it'll be late to be getting some games at this point. Most schedules have been completed for quite a period of time.
Yeah.
But there might be opportunities to get some games that we could get scheduled. And then at what level would we play? And then we'd have to also go through the MIAA to get.
Yeah, I would say with the number of boys programs, it's probably easier to adjust a schedule, because you're not talking about a ton of schools there,
Right.
so there's not as many interdependencies, but,
Okay. So if you're okay, I will go ahead and do that.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Ethan's a junior?
Yeah, he's a junior, and a lot of the boys in his grade and a couple other grades have been talking about it. They did I think they did a quick survey at the lunches or something. I don't know all the details, but there was quite a bit of interest, and even some people that were like, "Oh, we'll coach if you don't have anybody to coach." So.
So if only we knew somebody who might see Ethan later on tonight that could maybe share with him
Now, who
what
could
we're,
that be?
Get a hold of
the
him.
plan is, so that he doesn't feel like we didn't,
He'll probably watch this when he gets home, I'm sure.
somebody.
Oh, yes.
All
Okay.
right. Great. Any other topics not anticipated? Okay. I do not have any updates from our last executive session, so we're not in any executive session this evening. I think due to the holidays and the snowstorms, things have slowed a bit, so we'll pick up on that at our next meeting.
Does that mean that you would be anticipating an executive session at the next meeting?
We probably should, or have something else in between, even though I will not be here at our next meeting, so. But I will provide you any information that I get before then, so
Okay.
you'll be able to cover it.
All right.
Okay, great.
Or we could just skip that meeting and move it to a night that you're available.
I'm open to that, I don't know. I will not be here for the
Yeah,
next
just-
meeting, so.
If you need to
Going
move,
on, so we could move it,
if
yeah.
you need to move it, you can move it. We have, don't we have finance committee next week?
Oh, yes, thank you, we do. We have a budget subcommittee tomorrow, budget subcommittee meeting tomorrow, and we have, finance committee has
The
inviting
10th.
us for the 10th.
10.
So, I don't know that we all need to be there, it's not necessarily a joint meeting, he just asked, for us to come before him, basically kind of presenting, a preliminary look at our FY '21 outlook. So,
Is it going to be posted as a meeting?
I don't think so, I think it's just so I think it's one of those deals.
More
I
than
think you
3 of
have- I
us
think-
there?
Yeah, so I think we have to,
Oh,
we
no,
have
I
to
think they're
decide
gonna
that.
post it as a meeting.
They
I would
posted as a
think-
finance committee meeting.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we haven't posted a meeting.
Oh, no, I
So
think
we
we
have to
need to.
decide
Oh,
whether
yeah.
we're all gonna, if we're all gonna be there, we need to post a meeting, because then.
Oh, I would
Well, I
post
was
it
under the
anyway.
impression
I
we
would
should.
post it anyway. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So could
Yeah.
you have Lauren post a meeting
Yeah.
for us?
Definitely,
Um,
definitely, yeah.
And then if we all can't make it, then it'll just be a matter of, we won't have a quorum and it won't be a meeting, but at least it'll be posted, so,
Yeah.
okay.
One other thing I just happened to think of while we were talking about the budget subcommittee was that we should also, if the next meeting is the 18th, should share with the committee that the first session of negotiations with the DTA would be on the 16th of December. So that would be to go over ground rules and so forth.
Yes.
So that first session is coming up in a couple of weeks, and it will be in advance of our next meeting. So I just wanted to make the committee aware that that is
Right.
on the docket.
So I could potentially do a meeting on the 17th if we want to move it up. So let's see how the rest of this week plays out, and we
Yeah.
can make a decision next week
I
whether we
mean, I
want
was
to change the
kidding,
date.
but I wouldn't complain.
So
No, I
you said the 17th?
Yeah, just that Tuesday instead of Wednesday. I don't know if that works for anybody else, so, but, okay, so let's just keep the 18th then, and it'll just be me
Nope, that's fine.
missing, so. You'll do fine, so. All right, with that, I'll be looking for motion
you
to
do it.
adjourn at 7:34 PM?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. Was that a
I-
question?
I
Oh,
move,
was it-
I
okay.
move that we adjourn at 7:34 PM.
Excellent. Thank you. We have a motion from Julie,
Second.
second from Becky. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you.